Hi guys, I think I'm live. I just need to find myself. I know I've probably been sitting here for a minute, but technology can be slow. But I've got you guys pulled up here on my phone and I can see you if you comment. So if you are here with me live or if you are catching the replay, let me know. Say hey. I love hearing from you guys. I love hearing your feedback. If you guys have any questions about today's training, or if you guys want to tell me if it was helpful or if it wasn't helpful, I would love to hear them. I love your feedback. It's very beneficial for me to have. And plus, I just love chatting with you guys, whether I'm here live or on the replay. Hey, Melissa, so glad you are here. I love to chat with you guys. So if you feel up for it, leave me a comment, whether you're live or on the replay, and I love to get back with you either way. So with that being said, I'm not going to talk your ear off about chatting with me for the whole time. We can go ahead and get started on today's training. So I wanted to do today's training with the idea of emotional triggers or physical or whatever, any type of triggers where we get easily triggered, particularly by other people when we're having conversations with them. Hey, Ashley, so glad you are here. So I wanted to take some time to do a training with that, what other people do, taking that stuff personally sometimes, or letting it affect how we think or feel about ourselves or our character, right? How we can take things, like I said, personally, and making them kind of give attachment to our value or our worth, causing us that to maybe go into a spiral or feel depressed, or we might disconnect with our family or our friends, or we might cause resentment. So these are some things that I wanted to touch on with today's training. So keep these things in mind when I'm going through this process, right? The external way that people affect you. That's kind of what today's training is about. So with that being said, the first thing I want to share with you guys, hey girl, happy to catch you live. Yes, Amy, I'm so glad you are here. So glad you guys could make it with me. And thank you so much for letting me know you are here with me. So the first thing that I wanted to touch on was understanding that everyone has their own views and conditioning. Okay, so what that means, what conditioning means, is everyone is raised a certain way, right? Everyone is told what's right and what's wrong based on their generations or how their families were raised or how their parents or grandparents were raised. Everyone's got their own ideas, and plus maybe not even just familia or generational experiences, but personal experiences, right? You can have different opinions from your mom because your life experience was different than hers, right? So the first thing that is really helpful for not taking it personally when other people are going off about something, sharing their opinions, behaving in a certain way, the first thing to do is step back and realize they're behaving based on their conditioning, not yours. So my conditioning and your conditioning are not always going to relate to each other or be relevant. So my opinions or my behaviors might not reflect or mirror what you believe to be true versus what I believe to be true. So the first thing when you're communicating with other people is if you can build that habit of knowing that their life experience was completely different than to yours, and their life experience has nothing to do with your character, your worth, or your value in the world. Your opinions don't mean any less than theirs in that sense, if that makes sense. Everyone has their own truth, right? I don't like cake, but Amy and Ashley and anyone else here with me, Melissa, might love cake, right? So my opinion on cake is my own truth and from my own experience and my own body, my own conditioning, my own taste buds, right? Same for you guys. So I'll give you another example. People are not going to think the way that you do, right? So if I am not specific in how I communicate, then this can be a problem because you're going to take what I say at face value of what it means to you. If you are not taking the time to practice being appreciative or curious about what I have to say, then you may just take what I say and paint it in your own version, right? So I'll give you an example. If I say, think of a dog, but I don't tell you anything else, right? Melissa might think of a corgi. I might think of a pit bull, and Amy might think of a chihuahua, right? Like if I just say, think of a dog, everyone's first initial thought is going to be likely different from everyone here. Doesn't mean you're bad. Doesn't mean you're worthless. It doesn't mean you're wrong, right? It just means your idea of a dog, the first thing that comes to your mind is based on maybe what you've had growing up, or maybe what you are afraid of, or had a bad experience, a good experience, or whatever the case may be, right? It doesn't mean they're wrong, bad, invalid, worthless. It just means they're different, and they're humbly different because of everyone's own unique experiences. So that's the first kind of thing that I want you guys to think about if you do struggle with taking other people's opinions or behaviors personally, right? They're doing it because of their own conditioning. They're doing it because of their own thoughts and viewpoints of what's right and what's wrong. Doesn't mean that they're wrong. It doesn't mean that you're wrong. It doesn't mean that they're worthless. It doesn't mean that you're worthless. It just means that you guys are different and you guys have had different experiences. And it's not meant to criticize or ostracize either individual's character or worth value. So hopefully that's making sense so far, and hopefully you guys are following me. So the next thing that I want you guys to consider is, most of the time when people get into arguments or take things personally, or it goes down and it's not good, there's a disconnection, it usually stems from a lack of or a miscommunication. So most of the time, it's not what people say, it's what people don't say, or it's what people don't get curious enough to find more information, right? So sometimes we say things, but maybe it comes across wrong, right? Whether I offend you or you offend me, maybe we say things and it comes across in a wrong way. And maybe we didn't give the full story. And what happened is, person A, right, didn't give enough information, and then person B took that at face value and painted their own picture based on their conditioning and made assumptions about it instead of getting curious, right? So, hey, Lizan, I don't know how to pronounce your name. I don't want to mispronounce it, but I am so glad that you are here, and please excuse me for probably totally messing your name up. But I am so glad that you are here. Maybe if you have a nickname, or if you want to share with me how to pronounce it so I get it right next time, I would love you to do that in the comments. So give me a nickname or tell me how to pronounce that better so I don't totally screw up your name again. But so the next thing that you want to consider, so number one, right, you want to consider that everyone's got their own conditioning, life experiences, points of view, right? And they're going to see things immediately the way that they know how to see it, right? So that brings us into step two. When you know that, when you start to practice recognizing that, then when you communicate, the habit that you can practice is making sure that you are giving all the necessary information to make sure people understand where you're coming from and why, right? And then when you're talking to someone, you want to make sure that you're never assuming what they say to mean something. And if you do start to get maybe triggered, or you start to feel that they have ill intentions, or what they've said was very hurtful, step back. If you can, practice stepping back and trading that, taking it personal, trading that that overwhelm of assumption that they mean an attack on you, and be curious to ask them, well, why do you behave this way? Or why do you feel this way? Not in a defensive way, right? But out of genuine curiosity, right? Like, why did you say what you said? Where did that come from? Did somebody do something in your past to make you feel this way or to make you think this way? I'm just genuinely curious to know more about you and your life experience so that I can understand why you may behave or say something in this manner, right? So you're not doing it as like you're trying to use something against somebody, right? You're just doing it so that you can genuinely know like where this person is coming from, why they might think or behave or say the things that they do, so that you don't take it so personally, so that it's no longer an attack on your value or your worth or your character. It's now just a more complete understanding of the individual you are communicating with, if that makes sense. Because what happens here is now you're not taking it personally. Now you're not personally affected or feeling worthless or that your value is in question just because someone else is having a hard day and they choose to think or do or opinionate or behave a certain way that doesn't feel correct to you, right? Because remember in step one, you're not wrong or correct and they're not wrong or correct. It's your own truth and everyone's truth is valid. I go by Lee. Yes, Lee, that helps. That helps. That helps. Thank you so much. And I hope that I'm saying that right. It's not Lay or Leah, but it sounds like it's Lee. So we're going with Lee. So I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. So using communication where you are being curious communication. So instead of letting it immediately decide for you that it's about you, it's about your character, it's about your worth, you're being curious about why they are behaving or opinionating or speaking the way that they are speaking, right? Like you want to know more information. You need to have more information. So that's going to do, like I said, two things. It's going to help you not take it so personally or take it as an attack. And then the second thing is it's actually going to build a deeper connection between you and that person. Because in response A, where you don't get curious and you just assume what they mean and you take it personally, then you might disconnect. You might break up with that person or end that friendship or cut that family member off. You may disconnect from that person altogether, and then the connection is severed. And you may have taken it so personally that you can't get the connection back for whatever reason, right? So, but in option two, you're not letting your worth be questioned, and you are also building a deeper connection and understanding of a person who has had a completely different life experience than you, right? So now the final thing that I wanted to mention here is this is what you can do personally. So if you are having trouble with triggers or how other people think or opinionate or behave affects you really hard sometimes, right? If it really triggers maybe a past memory or whatever that the case may be. Hey, Amber, so glad you are here. If you're struggling with these triggers, right? You have the power to change the narrative. Right now, these triggers might feel like your enemy. They might feel like the thing that's holding you back in life or causing you stress or causing you problems, right? And they very well might be. It's not that you're not valid, but I do want to give you guys permission here to change the narrative. What if your triggers can be your roadmap to what needs your attention, to what needs your acknowledgement, right? So let's say I have a client, we were talking about these kinds of things, and she was saying how she was in a situation where somebody who got ripped off, her friend got ripped off, they stole money, and it had nothing to do with my client, but she was so angry because what was triggered in her was her previous experiences of herself being ripped off by somebody else, right? Or betrayed by somebody else. So her friend getting ripped off, she wasn't a part of that experience, but that experience affected her personally because of it reminded her of something she had went through in a separate occasion, right? So here's the thing. sometimes our triggers are just trying to say, hey, this needs your attention. Hey, we need to forgive ourselves for this. Hey, we need to forgive somebody else for this and let it go. This is holding us down. This is blocking our path. This is causing an energy disrupt in our ability to move forward or our ability to manifest better relationships or better experiences, right? There's something here in this situation that needs your attention. It needs your acknowledgement, and it needs something from you. It needs validation. It needs to feel safe enough to let this story go or to let this experience go, right? Because here's the thing. We hold on to anger or judgment or guilt or shame out of protection. Yes, our triggers can be our teachers, friend, if we allow them to be. Thank you for that reminder. Yes, Amy, that's exactly right. Your triggers are not a bad thing. So if you have a friend or a boyfriend or whatever that is triggering you a lot, it's not actually necessarily a bad thing. Let it be. Now, I'm not saying stay in a situation if you're being treated badly, but if you intuitively know that you're not necessarily being treated badly, but you're being maybe a little sensitive to everything and everything's affecting you more than it should and your emotions aren't very stable, that is a good sign that you need to learn something from these triggers. These triggers are trying to teach you something, right? So again, I'm not saying stay in a bad situation, but if you know intuitively that you're not in a bad situation, you're just being heavily affected by something. Hey, Joy, so glad you were here. Nice seeing you. Yes, nice seeing you this morning, this afternoon too, you guys. I'm so glad you guys are here with me, and I hope you guys are enjoying the training so far. So, yes, let the emotional triggers be your teachers, right? So if you're in a situation that you don't want to be in, or if it's a bad situation and you're ready to get out of it, learn from those triggers later in a safe environment. But if you know you're not in a negative environment, you're just taking things the wrong way because of past experiences or something of that nature, let them be your teachers. Let them be your guide. They just need your attention. They want you to learn something. So whenever I look at this, when I look at learning from your triggers, I see two parts. So the part number one is, how can you love and embrace and accept that you had the experience that caused the negative emotion to begin with, right? How can you be grateful for it? Is it trying to protect you in any way? Did you go through this? Is this physical trigger that you have, or this emotional trigger that you have, is it some type of protection mechanism that you've created? How can you find the love behind the emotional trigger that you've created, right? Because that's all it is. They're defense mechanisms. Your triggers are your defense mechanisms, right? If you can be triggered positively or you can be triggered negatively, it doesn't matter. But either way, they are to keep you surviving, right? So part one, how can you look for the love behind the trigger to begin with? And then number two, what were the lessons that you're supposed to learn from the experience that caused the trigger, right? So if you were betrayed, or if you were this, or if you were that, and you're triggered by this experience, whether it's you were neglected as a child, or you were betrayed in a relationship, or abused, or whatever the situation is, right? What were you meant to learn? I'll tell you right off the bat, most things that we're supposed to learn is we need to be more cautious. We need to not necessarily not trust people less, right? It's not that we don't need to trust people. It's just that we need to be more cautious about where we put our energy, right? We need to be cautious. We need to take more time. We need to move slower. We need to look before we leap. We need to ask more questions. We need to be more certain. How do I share this on my feed for my friends? Joy, this is a private group. So I would love for you to share it with your friends, but you can't share it on your feed because this is a private group. But if you have friends that you would like to share this with, you are welcome to invite them to the group. You're welcome to invite them to the group if you have some specific friends that you want to share this with, so that they can join the group and see these trainings. So yes, thank you, Joy. Thank you so much for asking that question. So I'll message you, or you can kind of, if you want, I'll just message you. We'll figure it out. I'll show you how to invite people. If you have certain friends that you want to invite, I will definitely help you do that, Joy. I appreciate your support, and I'm glad you would like to share this with your friends. But I'll definitely make sure that we do that together. So I will quickly review because I have to run soon. Number one, understand that everyone has their own life experience, meaning they're going to have their own way of seeing. They see the world through their own unique lens. So their lens isn't incorrect, your lens isn't incorrect, and neither of your guys' perception of the world determines your value in this world, okay? So just because someone doesn't see the same things as you and vice versa doesn't mean you're bad or you're worthless or they are bad or worthless. It just means you guys grew up differently, experienced things differently, and made different decisions about things. And both are valid, and both are great, and both are needed for this world, right? If we can appreciate that everyone has their own views and understand that that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It doesn't have any impact on our worth or our measurement of our value in this world. So step 2, use, I keep losing the word, use curious communication, where you are being very curious about what the person you are communicating has to say, right? Be very specific. Be very specific and get to know why. Why do they think the way that they do? Why are they behaving the way that they do? Not in a defensive way, but just in a genuine, curious way to understand that person better so that you can create a deeper communication or a deeper connection with them. And then also when you speak, if someone starts to take you the wrong way, try to back it up and say, hey, I think I might need to give you a little bit more information. I didn't mean to offend you. Here's more information. This is why I think the way that I think, or why I behave the way that I behaved, right? So it's not like you're explaining yourself, but maybe this person doesn't understand that you have your own perception and they have their own perception. And that's okay. Not everybody learns that. You know, it's not taught in school, that's for sure. I didn't learn it until I was in my certification for life coaching. So not everybody understands that. So if you care about this connection, you can take a step back and share more information so that they can know more about why you have your opinion or your thought or your behavior, right? Same for if they're doing something, you want to just be curious about it. But in the meantime, don't let your emotional triggers be the bad guy. You are allowed to change the narrative. And instead of looking at your emotional triggers as something that's holding you back or causing disruption in your life, look at them like your teachers, your guides, your friends. They just need your attention. They want to teach you something. There's a lesson that you're supposed to learn from that anger or from that judgment or from that guilt. You are supposed to learn a lesson. It wants you to acknowledge it and it wants you to learn from it. So just getting curious about your triggers instead of being feeling like they're out to get you or they're out to hurt you in any way, because that's not the truth. They're actually here to protect you, and they're actually here to help you learn something so that you don't have to experience something painful like betrayal or abuse or something again. They keep you cautious and they help you survive more, right? They're not meant to shut you down. They're meant to help you learn and survive and move forward. I need help with this one. Yes, Amber, I know some of these are complex, but I hope you guys can take some time, take some notes, rewatch this video, and do what you can with what I gave you today. So if you guys have any questions, I hope you guys will ask them. Thank you all so much. I'm so glad so many people were able to join with me live. If you catch the replay, please still interact. I will come back and reply to your comments. I still love chatting with you guys. So if this was helpful, let me know. Take some notes, rewatch it again. I know that sometimes this stuff is complex, but I promise if you just practice it and you just genuinely give yourself time and space to open up to these things, you will figure it out. The wires will eventually click. You just have to keep working at it each day. So with that being said, that's all I've got for you guys. I'm going to get ready for my next appointment. And I hope that you guys really enjoyed today's training and that it was beneficial for you guys. If you need me for anything, just let me know. Whether you do that in the comments or if you message me personally, I'd love to hear from you guys. And I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week, and we will talk soon.